Hi, everybody, and welcome to our regularly scheduled monthly SIG Usability upstream meeting. And today we have a pretty cool agenda. Daniel has a proposal for starting to think about upstream personas and kind of aligning around how we think about the different users of Kubernetes. And then Gabby has some project updates around our jobs to be done study and contribution guidelines. So Daniel, do you want to kind of kick off the personas convo?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I brought it up in Slack as well, and it kind of kicked off where we're starting to develop personas for the work we're doing at D2IQ around users of CNCF and things like that. And it just strikes me as, this being a small industry and just knowing the design teams at VMware, knowing the design teams at IBM and stuff like this, there's, a lot of research done already. It's not necessarily like this is even like top secret competitive stuff. I think all the users we're encountering, all the pain points are pretty much the same. And then in the spirit of the CNCF and the sharing, it just seemed like this could be a great opportunity to have kind of a open personas project that, is posted on GitHub, is kind of curated by the committee and the folks that are, companies that are participating, they contribute user research there. So we can get aligned as a community about, who are the people involved, what are the main responsibilities, pain points. I'm not going to go through the user persona criteria, you guys I think everyone in this audience knows that. But that's the proposal there. I think there's some redundancy and learning to do. And I think it's a good practice to an open culture because I think, there are the big players and they have huge design teams and even dedicated research teams, right? But there's also smaller folks where those teams are smaller and there, but I think it benefits everybody to kind of share. So the second part too is obviously in this landscape, it's not like we're all contributing code, right? It's not something we can all do at that production level, but I think this is a way for design and user research to elevate itself within this community to say, hey, we can contribute as well. Just it's in a different aspect, but it's just as valuable to get alignment on.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. I know that when you originally brought up this suggestion, I remembered from back in the day, the Kubernetes website had personas, but they were sort of focused on users of the website in like a very interesting way. And so since then, I've been looking at what some of the other SIGs have. And so, for example, the cluster API team has personas. The security team had personas, but then deleted the page. So it's kind of like we have a bunch of fragmented personas all over the project. And I do think it would be really cool for us to kind of look at how they're using personas and then maybe try and also kind of talk to our own design teams about upstreaming personas that we may have developed in-house, because there's not like unique competitive information about like the personas of a Kubernetes user, right? Like it's just how many customers do you have access to? And so I think it does benefit everybody to sort of share that kind of learning where there's so much overlap and potentially kind of get people out of maybe more siloed thinking.
No, it's great. Really good observation. I think, and actually, it's like, okay, so what, right? I think that's a big question. So what, why bother? But I think you bring up a great topic, which is there's projects like CAPI and also security that we're referencing personas. And we actually even went to those personas too, to look at what's written. And then we saw that they're unmaintained or then the links break. So imagine if these different CSCF projects, if they're referencing who we're targeting, now they can reference like, CNCF, can come up with a cool name or something like that for cloud native people, whatever.
The cloud native persona project. Yeah.
Yeah.
CNPP. I don't know if anyone's took that already.
But I think,
yeah.
What's a good reason for, I think that will have a light bulb for a lot of people involved. They're like, oh, okay, we can have a common understanding about who,
Yeah.
And then that persona could even have a list of like projects that are referencing it, right? So that's the ask, is if you use this for your project, reference it. So it's very clear. It's like, oh, you have this project. Oh, CAPI's using this, security's using this. So that's where things get very interesting.
Totally. And it can kind of give you, I know that before we had SIG usability, I would end up at some of the upstream meetings, just kind of talking about like when cluster API was kicking off and stuff. And when I mentioned kind of the personas that we think about, everyone was very hungry for that. Like it was like very helpful for them as they sort of organized their thinking about just even as an open source team, what stories should we go after first, right? And if you understand who your core persona is and what problems they're trying to solve, then it becomes easier to kind of be like, okay, let's go after this piece first, and then, think about this, but like it's not, issue number one. So I do think it would benefit a lot of the teams, and they'd be super interested in it. So there's a couple different ways we could kick this off. We could sort of kick off a doc that references the various personas that other people have kind of kicked off, just like as prior art, and then kind of look at, how we want to evolve those into like maybe more of a central persona, kind of look at any missing personas. Also, if people already have personas, internal to their company that they would be able to open source or upstream as data points, I think that could be valuable too.
Also curious if there's, I know Gabby, you've headed some research that's ongoing right now. Is any of that able to be, I haven't seen the survey itself. Is any of that research, I guess, leverageable towards user personas or not so much?
I think so. I think anything, because with personas, like with the tasks and kind of like the goals and like the work, they're like common workflows. I feel like, or even like their mental models. Like I feel like this would be a kind of like a direct feed into that. So, but yeah, I think it's just like the curation of it and just kind of like the like rounding out of it. I feel like, yeah, it would fit pretty nicely.
Sweet.
Yeah, from my end, I think this seems like a great start, is to see, get alignment and saying like who's involved, and then, another key steps is what's the right level of gradient of information there, right? So I think it doesn't need to get too geeky, it can get a little bit more high level just to gain alignment about who and top things. And I think that's where it could be interesting is, there could be like a subcommittee to kind of look at like, okay, here's the research we have, here's what some of the, contributing companies are also saying, and we can just kind of agree on like top responsibilities, top pain points, and top stuff like that. It doesn't negate the deeper stuff, but what's nice is that could gain a lot. What's nice is even focusing on, for example, top pain points, right? So maybe it's like the top 3 or 5 it's not everything, it's not conclusive, but it's just like, based on, our expertise and current research or additional research is like, this is what we're seeing. And, contributing CNCF members and designers and engineers and project members can use that as a guidance in that way. And we can make really cool, like, I always love, we're actually doing it at day 2, which I'm very excited for. Like, you guys ever see the persona cards from Salesforce?
Whenever I think of Salesforce, I just think of those cute cartoon like raccoons doing different things. Yeah.
You want me to share?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, let me just pull it up. Here, share screen. Yeah, Salesforce has for a long time had some, y'all can see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. No, they have a whole really good stuff on their learning hub, like their trailhead thing to like learn about personas and what they're used, but they also have awesome like cards too. Let's see. Persona, here's one. So they have different ones, sales, service, different domains, but they have these cards that like available in a PDF form, but also at their conferences, they're like printed out and you can get them like in a nice card stock. But it's kind of like a little summary about who it is, some key information about them, how they're using it, some icons. So that's where it could get kind of pretty too in the presentation part of it as well. In terms of socialization, stuff like that, maybe have KubeCon, it could be like a big poster as well, right? So
people would love that. Yeah.
Maybe a download poster, screensaver, so there could be some fun visual artifacts that, this community, I think, could output as well.
Yeah, I think that something like this, like obviously, like I think we could, so what I would suggest, like just to kind of concretely move this forward is let's kick off a doc with a project plan and kind of what we want to achieve. And then some of this is like the outputs, and then have some inputs in there. And I'm super happy to help with this. And then, but I do agree that like if we were at KubeCon and we had this kind of artifact, like I think it would be very popular. So yeah.
Nice, awesome. Is anyone else here interested to work on this, or yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to
Yeah.
help.
hi below?
And one other thing is when we have the project plan together and kind of with the inputs, what I might do is do a call out to like the KDev mailing list, just mentioning that this is a new initiative and getting a lot of eyeballs on it, because I think a lot of sub projects have kind of at some point sketched out their own. So we could just be like, send us what you got, right? And then B, there's a lot of UX teams and researchers who haven't figured out how to get involved in the upstream community. And so a lot of times I'll talk to a developer who's like, I'm going to send you my researcher, right? Like I'd love for them to participate. So it could become like a really easy way for people to be like, hey, this team's working on this thing, go check it out. And just kind of help engage more people in what we're doing. So I think if we put together a little plan and then kind of figured out like a concrete ask for like a very broad community, we could probably get a lot of participation.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. So let's start with the plan and
Yeah.
go that way. And I think I think the most interesting thing will be is, you know, what do the big vendors, you know, feel comfortable with, right, in terms of sharing. So that'll be interesting as well.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the funny thing, at least about VMware, is like, you know, we have a lot of primary personas who no one in upstream Kubernetes cares about, right? So like for this part, I don't think sharing is like concern, you know, it's kind of, it just would help everybody. I think people would be super interested. You know, for us, like we have like the VI admin and like a bunch of sort of very unique personas that we've done a ton of research on. And then when it comes to like the cloud native personas, you know, it's obviously an area of active investigation, but I don't think we would be that concerned. But also, like, obviously I'm not the decision maker, so we can go ask Pamela.
By the way, I think that's a great name, cloud native personas. So I think.
Thank you. Yeah. I was trying to figure out if that turned out, it sounds a little like the old Soviet Union in Cyrillic, like CNPP, like it's kind of close. So that was making me laugh. But yeah.
Comrade cards.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Nice.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, and I appreciate the opportunity to share the topic with you guys and also the community too.
Yeah. Let's kick off a project plan. And I think that this is something we could probably get some good traction on and would be a value add to the whole community. So it'd be cool. Awesome. Gabby, I know you had some updates you wanted to do as well.
Yeah, just but every monthly meeting, I just update kind of like how the job study is going. So I think we've done like 3 or 4 interviews since last time. But then also one of the things that we've been doing at the same time is we're going back through the interviews and kind of like highlighting behaviors. And that's ultimately kind of like what we'll use to kind of like pull out and build like our mental model, kind of like how Carl mentioned in our KubeCon talk. So one of the things that we've felt is just that the analysis can be a little bit time intensive. And also we have, actually, let me think real quick. Yeah, so as far as contribution opportunities, which we know we've had some people ask about in the past, I think I'm writing up a contribution doc that I was planning on posting on our GitHub project, which is part of our repo. And so I have it in draft form, so I'll probably plan on showing it next week or just publishing it. But I think 2 contribution opportunities that I wanted to highlight, at least like here in this meeting, was I know we've asked in the past for if people want to shadow user interviews. And And so, we've gotten a lot of interest around that. And I think just to open it up to more people, because we don't want like so many people in the interviews, we're thinking anybody that's really come to one of these monthly meetings could shadow an interview, and maybe just shadow it a max of 2 times just to be able to give other people a chance. And then after that, like kind of like what the other contribution opportunity that we can kind of like offer is, Carl agreed to put together a training video for how you go through an interview and tag behaviors. And so that's something that, for example, like if he did a recording, anybody that wants to help out with the analysis part could just watch the video, and then just kind of like help out with the behavior tagging. And so that's just kind of like wanted to mention that in case anybody in the call is interested in doing that. He is just thinking of putting that recording together like in the next month or so. So I think like that gives us kind of like a nice, like, if you've shadowed in the past and you want to contribute more, you can help out by learning about behavior tagging and synthesis and analysis, as kind of like opportunities there. And that would help us a ton with just like with the analysis part. So I think that's it as far as updates. I'm working on just like cleaning up the draft of that contribution and just cleaning up our GitHub repo project, just so that we can be a little bit more like transparent about where the project is and where specifically like we need people to shadow and people to tag behaviors. So cool. So that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabby. I think that having the sort of contributors guide will be really helpful for people who want to get started. And I know that that was kind of something the steering committee was asking us a lot about, because they were just kind of wondering, like, how are we so like the challenge, and we've talked about this a couple times in this meeting, is balancing user confidentiality with being part of an open source project. And so like we have a plan to anonymize and share all of our data for everybody to take advantage of, and we just haven't gotten there yet since we're kind of actively gathering it right now. And so that was something they were asking a lot about in sort of our yearly report. So I think that continuing to sort of figure out how to kind of balance those key concerns of just, people are spending a lot of time with us and giving us a lot of information, and we don't want to open them up, to regret that. But
Right.
Then also, like, how do we share the data and kind of make it so that people can take advantage of it where it's appropriate? And so, that this isn't the first time that this group especially will have to kind of deal with those competing tensions. And so I think that kind of taking these steps to like be open and transparent about how and what we're doing while still protecting the user's data is like pretty clutch. So yay.
Cool. So I'll just I'll post updates like in the channel, and probably like as soon as I clean up the first draft of the contribution guidelines, I'll definitely be looking for some feedback on those. So I'll definitely be asking around.
Cool. Yeah, sounds great. And then I guess just kind of from a bookkeeping perspective, obviously now that KubeCon, your EU is over, KubeCon North America planning is kicked off. And so we'll have to submit sort of our proposal for what we want to talk about at the next KubeCon, I'm guessing in a month or two. So if people have ideas, I'd love to hear them. This is like just kind of like super in like, I found that with the multi-tenancy working group, when I frame the community update as sort of something spicy, like we get like a ton of attendance, right? Versus like, here's our SIG update or whatever. And so what we did with multi-tenancy last time was we realized that everybody who came to multi-tenancy always asks us the same question like over and over again, which is multi-cluster or multi-tenancy. And so we like decided to do a panel where we just, all of the leads discussed it and like basically gave the same information that we give people constantly, but like as a panel. And it was like really well attended. So we might want to kind of think about like if there's something like that around usability that we'd like kind of elevate, and like how we might present it in a way that people kind of connect with it more. Because I think right now, like the data we're giving is really cool, but I think the way that we pitch it, you know, we could make it more, if we made it like a little more like zingy, I think we get a lot more attendees. So yeah. Maybe like, who's even using this cluster anyway? Could be the title. But then everyone would think it was a security talk. So
cool. Yeah, that's good to think about and to just kind of like let mull over in the next like couple months.
Yeah, we got time. Cool. Well, I think that was all of our planned talk for today. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to go over?
I have a quick question. The CNCF survey that comes out every year, is that from this group or does somebody else at CNCF write that survey?
Yeah, it's somebody else.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Or were you wondering about just how the questions are formed? Or we actually have like a couple different ones that come out. So SIG Contrib-X does one, and then CNCF does one, and SIG Apps does one. So which one are you thinking about?
Well, I was just thinking about, I didn't realize it was the CNC. I was looking recently at the CNCF Survey 2020 report. So I'm not quite sure.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just kind of curious. And then I know while I was Googling that, I noticed the 2021 survey part 1 was released. So I just thought, oh, that's probably from SIG Usability, but I guess not.
Yeah. So specifically this one?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can definitely ask who is doing this. I think it's just, oh, so it's part of the end user community.
Okay.
Maybe.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, I was just mostly just curious for informational purposes. You all do so many research initiatives that I figured it was this team, but
yeah, there's a bunch of different research going on. And so I think kind of identifying areas where we can partner with people and kind of learn what they're doing is really cool. Some of this is more marketing focused. And so kind of what the space that we were trying to carve out a little bit with the jobs to be done survey is this idea that in the upstream community, we are often thinking about ourselves as the makers of Kubernetes. What do we need out of it? And so are we making sure that we understand what the users of Kubernetes need? So where you'll kind of see the two kind of efforts diverge is you know, something that one of the key takeaways Gabby was getting when she was interviewing people who are trying to use Kubernetes is people who don't have a requirement to use it in their job, like their boss said, go use Kubernetes, fail out of onboarding completely because it's too hard. And so like, that's good to know, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
And so, you know, like, I think we're identifying some things that we really need to take back to the building community and kind of be like, hey, like, here's some important data that we're gathering that we kind of all need to think about to make what we're building more adoptable.
Awesome. I appreciate the info and insight. That's helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Super excited to kick off the persona work. Daniel, let me know how I can help you, and we can all kind of kick around a project plan and then figure out kind of any asks we have that we want to make to a broader community. But I think that would be very valuable if we start driving that.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm really excited too. I think it'll be really great, and I think help people know, and I think also increase, I think, awareness of design and the value of, you know, just what we're doing in this community is not just making it look pretty, right? Like we're actually addressing usage and stuff like that. See some smiles, so I'm sure we run into those similar issues still. But in terms of next steps, so would we talk about this at another meeting, or we would do like a separate meeting for this, or how would that work?
What I would do is maybe kick off a project plan draft and then just share the Google, like we normally just do everything in Google Drive. So I could show you some examples of project plans I did for multi-tenancy back in the day, but basically we just kind of tried to carve out like, here's what we're proposing to go after, and here's sort of our roadmap of going after it. So like, and for multi-tenancy, that's just important because everyone who hears the word multi-tenancy thinks something different, right? So it was like, this, I feel like people will immediately get what we're trying to do. With that one, we had to kind of be more like, you know, A, B, C, D. Yeah, I think if we just kick off a little project plan, share the Google Doc between ourselves, iterate on it, open it up to the whole SIG for, you know, participation, and then kind of if we have core asks, we can go to the broader group and be like, we're doing this, we would love to know if you can connect us with additional people or resources who want to participate, like, you know, let's go for it. I do think that an upstream persona effort would be something a lot of people would connect with, so kind of thinking about how to leverage that excitement, you know, productively. Yeah.
Definitely. And then for the logistics wise, so like the Google Doc for the schedule and all that, I know that we have a Google group, but is there like, would the file be saved there or?
So we don't have a folder. So there's like weird stuff with permissioning. So normally what I do is I just create a Google Doc under my personal account and then open it up. So you can like share it with SIG Usability, for example.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, so I should share with that email address?
Yeah, but you might want to do that after you like kind of really load in the content, because everyone will get an email who's part of the Google group.
Got it. Do you mind, or maybe on Slack or something, can you share that email just to make sure I put the right one?
Oh yeah,
And
it should
and
auto.
I think process wise, maybe should I just share with this group first and
Yeah.
then go from there? Okay.
Yeah, if you want to, or you know, drop a link in the chat channel or whatever. But yeah, I think probably logistically what's easiest is if you want to kick off a draft, share it with a smaller group. We can work on a little bit and then open it, and then we'll share it with the whole SIG for people to kind of, you know, participate in. I think that's probably the best progression. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay.
Cool.
We'll do that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, have a great month, everybody, and look forward to getting rolling on this.
Awesome. Me too. Thanks.
Awesome. See ya.
Yeah.